What does self-led parenting mean to you?
Yeah, so self-led parenting, it means as much as possible that self is somewhat or in the lead. One thing I want to say to any parents who are watching this is that there's no expectation in anyone who really understands IFS that one could be in self all the time. And it's okay to just give yourself that break starting up. Like, I'm not going to be in self all the time. There's going to be times when I'm blended by parts. There's going to be times I'm just not at my best. And there's times when I make mistakes. But when we are in self or we're close to self, what that does is it gives us like this keen awareness of what's happening inside of me and what's happening inside of my child. So when I'm in self, I could notice do I have a part running the show here? Do I have a part that's speaking? Do I have a part that wants to speak? If my child is acting out, like for instance, some parents might, when a child snaps back or stomps away or says, I hate you, or something like that, they might notice they have parts, like exiles, that are terrified to lose that love. And then they might have an anger protector that just comes and goes, you can't talk to me like that, I'm your parent, you have to come here right now. You know, it's just like, at that moment, like, we are totally blended with parts. So when we're self-led, we're like, oh, I feel that coming, and I'm just gonna say, hey, I got you, I got this, I think I let me be here with this child. And overall, I think what makes parenting go easier and where a child feels supported is when we are curious and when we're essentially open to diversity. Because my child's gonna do things that are not like me. My child's gonna have beliefs that are not exactly mine. And when I'm in self, I could say, yeah, I could see how you would go there. That makes sense for you. It might be different than me, but I see that, and I'm gonna accept that. But if I was in a part, I might say, that goes against our family beliefs. You can't do that. So being self-led allows you to be curious enough to actually even attune to infants, to toddlers, to preschoolers, to be able to see them in a much clearer lens. Almost as if when we're in parts, we're wearing different colored glasses and we're looking through the lens of fear, or through the lens of power, or whatever it may be, and then we take off this lens, and when we're in self, we see the child in their natural state, or whatever they're experiencing. So it kind of facilitates good parenting, in my opinion, like healthy parenting, I should say, like supportive parenting, because self is compassionate and curious. So the more we even if we have a self-like part, that's not bad, because we're going to really be conscious about realizing, wow, we need to check and see if we're being supportive here. Like, it's not okay just because we're parent that we're allowed to hurt and we're allowed to have, just because we're the power person.
What other benefits of self-led parenting?
I think that's what creates the juice of you see me, because when I'm in self, I see you for real, without a cloud of something else. So the benefit of self-led parenting, it really transmits pure love and acceptance. And so when I'm in self as much as possible, I do things like speak for my parts. I do come back and loop and repair. And my child says, wow, you care about me that much to come back and make this repair? And it might not even be conscious, but parts are watching, the ones that were questioning if I'm worthy of love. They're like, wait a minute, maybe I am worthy of love, because you could have just gone to bed, but you chose to come back and to say, I'm speaking for my parts now and letting you know what part of me was taken over. And, and I could tell that I saw the look in your face that when that part was taking over, it hurt you. And I feel so sorry and I want that part to know that I don't feel the way I was expressing. I do love you and I do accept you. And if that part felt like I didn't, then I just want that part to know that was me being way off base. And that's not me. That's just that part of me. And there's this healing that happens. So it allows us to tune in and be real and be authentic.
Thank you.
And vulnerable.
So this might be a complex answer, but how does parenting evolve as children grow and their needs change over time?
Yeah, so again, there is this sense of we start like this, and as children grow, our love becomes a little more like this, where we're letting them out into the world. But with infancy, for instance, the true message of infancy that helps a child like have a healthy base is for them to feel that you see their needs and you respond in a timely manner. And it's really the time of whether or not they're building trust in the world. Like, will I be taken care of on this planet? Will I survive? Because they can't take care of themselves. Dr. Montessori said that gestation is really 18 months, that 9 months in, and then the 9 months out, they just get too big to be in the belly. But they need the exact same kind of care where it's just automatic. They automatically get their needs met. They're supplied with everything they need because they can't do it themselves. In that vulnerable stage of those first 9 months, that's when we as parents have to be keen observers and tune in. And tuning in is a lot like those old radios where on our cars, where you had to hit the station, it's be static, and you just turn it just a little more, and then it's perfectly clear. Or one of those microscopes where you get the gross tuning and then the fine tuning. In that fine tuning, everything comes in. So it's like our attention, our awareness, we have to really see, am I really tuning in? Once you tune in, it's almost as if even an infant can speak. Like, you hear what they need, you see what they need. And in that, they feel, wow, I can really trust. And one quick example for infancy is I ask people when I'm in trainings, like, how do you know when babies are hungry? And even like infant toddler caregivers will say, when they cry. And I'm like, my heart always breaks because there's lots of signs prior to crying. Like, children will start smacking their lips, they'll start rooting, where is it? I know it's around here somewhere. They start putting their hands in their mouth, they start getting a little more agitated, and then they actually get into a distress. Like, I'm so hungry, why aren't you seeing me? I need to scream. So what we're teaching them, if we wait till they cry and we don't catch those subtle signs, is you have to get into distress before you get taken care of. And that teaches parts that message in that moment. So as if we do things like, I really enjoy reading the Sears books about attachment parenting, where he says, you wear your child, you don't house your child in things, because when you're holding your child or wearing your child, you sense when they're uncomfortable, you sense when they need something, and then you're right there. And children's vision, when they're very young, is where it's in focus is the distance between the mother's nipple and your face, so they could see your face. So as we hold our babies and we're like looking for their needs and we're there to respond, like, we're in full view. When they're in a car seat over here and they're starting to cry and we put a blanket over them and keep rocking them, like, stop, 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 we're basically telling them, you're on your own. I'm not going to respond to you. And then that progresses through toddler, when I just want to start doing things myself and I want to have autonomy. And you're like, basically at that moment, it's like my response is, yeah, I see you. Like, you want to try things on your own. I'm going to set up the house to help you do that. And as you become a preschooler and you want to like be engaged in activities, I'm going to support that. But when we don't support it, we're almost like saying your natural drives to be human are wrong, are bad. And they develop these feelings of, I'm not good enough. And so I think as children grow, the root of our parenting is to be an observer and a responder and to just constantly show that you're there is the same, but the method of that shifts. And to make this not into a long speech is, if you can be as self as possible, self carries wisdom. And in like Montessori, the always answer to any problem that you're experiencing with children is observe, observe, observe. If you follow the child, no matter what age or stage they're in, and observe them, they will show you or teach you what they need. And if you're open to that, you will know what to do. If you're trying to just do to a child or manage them without really observing their individual need, then you're probably going to miss the boat. So as you now with my 18-year-old and my 14-year-old, I'm still there, I'm still here, but as I observe you, you need more space. You need me to like not lecture you. You need me to, and I'm noticing in their reactions, like when I act this way, I see, oh, God, you know, like, okay, what's happened there? Like, okay, let me go through this. And, oh, you don't like when I'm annoyed at you. That makes sense because it's an assault to you, to your self-worth.
So you're segueing into what can parents do when they make mistakes or cause pain?
Yeah, and you know, we talked about that earlier. When you do cause pain, again, it's that looping, it's that causing repair, that we're going to go back and really own it. You know, that was me. Those were my parts that were talking. You know, as kids, one of the great things about teenagers, I find, is that they have more of an abstract mind. They can really like think about parts in a new way, like think about how parts could exist when you're conscious and all this kind of stuff. And like, there was one time when I sat with my kids and said, guys, I finally found the part of me that gets angry at you. Like we're just sitting in the living room. I said, you know, like I noticed the last couple weeks, I've just been really short. My patience was gone. And when I got in touch with this part, what it told me was, if you guys are acting out, that I'm failing as a father because I'm not preparing you for the world. And so when you're acting out, it's like in my face that I'm failing. So I have a part that doesn't want me to feel like a failure, and it gets angry and it shuts down the feeling of failure, and it just wants to push you so I don't have to feel like a failure. So I just want to apologize that I let those parts lead me, and I showed you anger and I showed you frustration, but I just figured it out. It's like, you guys aren't doing bad stuff. You're just being normal teenagers, and I have these parts that are making me do this. And you just sense like, damn, respect, Dad. Like, you just own that shit? Sorry, you just own that? Like, wow, thanks for modeling that. You know, like, and that's how we're parenting too. We're modeling how to be with others in a way that's respectful and that's authentic. And so as they age, it's really amazing to be able to talk at that depth and that level, and they get it.
So providing support seems like a wonderful thing, but how do parents also provide limits when children seem to be making unhealthy choices?
Yeah, so this whole discussion is about supporting them and follow their lead, but then there's times when kids just do things that aren't safe. They do things that are disrespectful to other people, and our job is to help. So I really love Dr. Montessori's analogy. When she talks about limits, she says that if you think of your child as a river, and the limits you provide are the banks of the river. So if you think about a river, it doesn't exist without the banks, right? Now, if our limits are how we are as a parent when it comes to are we being authoritarian, are we being permissive? So if we're really strict, it's like the river has the banks become very narrow and tight, and the river actually starts running faster and a little bit out of control. So sometimes when we're too strict, we can cause our children to fly off the rails. Like, for instance, there's been lots of studies that show the most strict homes, those kids are the hardest to deal with at school because they have to they're so controlled at home, they have to release at school. But if you're too permissive and I'm just gonna follow my child, whatever they need, if the banks of the river spread out so far, there's no river, it becomes a swamp. The river has zero direction. It's not even a river. It's lost its riverness. So for every child, what Dr. Montessori recommends is find out where the banks need to be to help give the river a healthy course. So my job as a parent is to say, I see the cliff. I might let you get close to it and explore it and notice it, but I'm not going to let you fall off of it. And my addition to that analogy is like, what are your banks made of? If your banks or your limits are made of sand and you're trying to help guide your children to say, my first job as a parent is to keep you safe. Make sure you're safe. And I'm going to tell you, I can't let you run through the parking lot because you could get hurt. And my job is to keep you safe. And then they run off and you're like, oh, well. Yeah, oh, well means my banks are made of sand. I've got eroded. But I'm putting you in a situation to get hurt. So when I say, I cannot let you run in the parking lot, my banks are made of stone, and it's with love. And what I notice is, and what we notice in Montessori world and other places, is that children thrive in a situation where somebody's providing healthy limits, even if they're banging up against them and challenging, because they want to know, are those limits real? Are they really going to keep me safe? And when they say, I can't break those limits, now I know I'm safe. It might be an unconscious level. So I would say you can be extremely firm, extremely clear, but we need the additional ingredient of love. So you can say it calmly, patiently, directly. And usually the phrase is, especially for the younger children, is to avoid negative words like don't run. Actually, in the mind of a young child, they often ignore the negative word, they hear run. So you're actually inviting, like when you say don't run, they're like, run! They hear run. The direction was run. There's also a don't. But so if I say please walk, it's just very clear. Please lower, please talk in a soft voice. And what I notice from being a teacher and being a parent is when you phrase things in this, what we need to have happen here for you to be safe and for things to be respectful of others, that you're saying positive things, you don't feel worn out at the end of the day. But when you're spending all day, don't, no, don't, you're actually phrasing things in the negative, and you feel, at the end of the day, you feel negative. You've been expressing negativity all day long. And as a teacher, that could just burn you out. So the minute I shifted to all positive phrasing, even a child, a little 4-year-old, was about to punch another one, and I said, could you please put your arm down? And then I talked like, let's touch each other gently. You can ask if you could give him a hug, or you could ask if I could touch you, but we touch each other gently. And then it was like, if I had said, don't hit, it's like, there's like some shaming there, there's some, but it just works. Like if you just tell them what you want, so, and then even to my teenage children, like my daughter wanted to go see her boyfriend who's at college, and she's 18 and in high school. And I said, well, I have a rule that when you get there, you have to pick him up first before you go park at that faraway parking lot and walk to his dorm. So that's the one thing I need, because I know that if you pick him up, then you're in a safer place. She's like, okay, Dad. So I think, it's important to, limits mean you love me. So it's okay to provide healthy limits for your child, but you have to observe, am I too tight or am I too loose, by noticing their behavior and how they're on a healthy course or not. And to feel good to provide limits. And to check yourself, like, is a part of me providing this limit? Like even telling that story about the parking lot, okay, is that same part that's afraid of somebody stealing her? Maybe, but it's also very smart if you're a young woman not to be walking alone in the dark. It's just kind of common sense. Or anyone walking alone in the dark, right? So having a buddy, the buddy system is a good thing. And so she listened and she did it. And I guess to close this question is, another good example, another good litmus for you is freedom comes with signs of responsibility. So it's like a relationship. So as children show they can make these good choices, you can tell they're making good choices. Give them more freedom to explore and to try new things. And as they show more responsibility, you give them more freedom. They're saying, I'm letting you practice this before you're out in the world by yourself. Like, I'm not going to keep you confined and safe so much that you don't get to make mistakes. But when you're showing, like, oh, you're showing signs of making healthy choices enough that nothing really bad's going to happen, I give you more freedom to go and explore more. And then when kids say, why can't I do that? Sometimes I'll explain. Like, I need to know that you're going to be safe. And so as you develop and as you grow, you're going to learn more about the world, and you're going to be making, like, you're going to see how things work, and you're going to be making choices that show that you get it. And when I know you get it, then it's really easy for me to just say, yeah, go ahead and go, like, take the bus downtown. But until I know that you are ready, I want to make sure that you're not, my job is, again, to keep you safe.